which is a week from Thursday. That meeting information is always at cb5.org. So right off the bat, let's hear from our friends at the Madison Square Park Conservancy. I believe we are going to begin hearing from Brooke, but you guys tell me, take it away.
Hi, Clayton. Hi, everyone. So happy to see so many of you, even on Zoom. Stephanie Stachow is going to screen share, and I'm going to talk about the art program, and then Steph will take it from there.
Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just to introduce myself, hi, my name is Brooke Kamen-Rappaport, and I am the Deputy Director and Martin Friedman Chief Curator of Madison Square Park Conservancy. We commission outdoor temporary sculpture in the park. And on view now, next slide, Steph, please, is Hugh Hayden's Briarpatch. The project opened on January 18th. There are 100 elementary school desks with branches erupting from the tabletops and the seats. And the artist is addressing opportunity and inequity in public education. There's also a section in the park of 25 of these desks with no branches. And that is so people can convene there for classes or meetings, or to have their lunch, or to read their emails or their newspaper, whatever they like. So that is, in a sense, next slide, Steph, please. That is, in a sense, the artist's offering to people. I think that the project has captured imaginations and has inspired people, and has also provoked lots of memories, because a elementary school desk is something that's formative to most people. We are going forward with exciting public programs for the project. We have a story circle. We had a story circle last week with artists speaking about their art education. On Tuesday, March 15th, Hugh will join with Dr. Carla Shedd, who is a CUNY sociology professor, to speak about Briarpatch. There will be a reflection board in the park for park goers to write their responses to the question, what does education mean to you? And then on April 26th in the evening from 6 to 7, we will have a free outdoor concert with the Interschool Orchestra. These are musicians who are in junior high and high school, who will be playing outdoors in the park. And the student musicians are from all 5 boroughs. And ISO is a wonderful organization that brings them together through music. Any questions about Briarpatch?
Actually,
Okay.
Brooke,
Yeah.
this is Natalie. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Natalie.
Great. I just want to say how much I appreciate this particular installation. I walked through it. You activated multiple parts of the park, but what I really appreciated was that the one section of the 25 desks that allowed people to sit and reflect on Hugh Hayden's messages. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Natalie. Thanks go to Hugh, and I will tell him that you said that. You know, it's his most ambitious project to date, and I think it's just been epic. It's a really, really strong work. So we're very proud to show it in the park, and it's going to travel to the North Carolina Museum and open there in mid-May, and it will be on view there through early September of this year. And then coming up, next slide, please. Coming up, opening on June 1st is Christina Iglesias' project called Landscape and Memory. In this work, Christina, who is an artist who's based in Madrid, will install 5 very shallow bronze pools at the ground plane in the park. They will have a tiny trickle of water gently streaming across the surface. And Christina's goal is to, in a sense, bring forward ideas of what was called the Cedar Creek, which existed before industrialization. It's still flowing beneath Madison Square Park, but to so that we have in our mind's eye and a physical journey through the path of what was the Cedar Creek flowing under Madison Square Park. So she wants us to think about and to physically look beneath the surface for ancient histories through nature and natural formations. And that is opening on June 1st. I think those are my slides, right, Steph?
Yep, that's it. Does anyone have any questions about the new piece?
I will just
Natalie here again. Oh, sorry, Clayton.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Natalie. I just want to take that off by just asking about well, first of all, it's just tremendous. Wait, I actually want to back up even more than that. So one thing I really want to say about the Madison Square Park Conservancy and Brooke and the stewardship of this space and the public art installations, over the years, we've had all kinds of different versions of how we hear public art, and what we've gotten to with you guys and our relationship with you with this particular component of everything you do. We are so appreciative of how we learn of the projects before they are there and have a chance to imagine and appreciate, witness their execution, go and participate ourselves, and then come and have you back and hear how it's going. That is the ideal scenario, and we are very grateful to have that relationship with you. And this one also looks so provocative and inspiring. And my only question about this specific installation is about the installation. What is the deal with the water, and how is it all going to look, and which parts of the park are this actually affecting?
It will be on the oval lawn, installed on the oval lawn. Each of these bronze, very shallow pools has a hidden hydraulic pump underneath that will bring the water through. So it's actually quite a simple solution, and they're hidden, so you won't be able to see them. So that mystery and the imagination that you just talked about will be there for all park goers. Christina is an exceptional artist, and such an honor for Madison Square Park Conservancy to be able to bring this work to New York City.
Thank you. So Natalie, I know you had a question, and then Mike, you are after that.
Sure. I would just say, at the risk of sounding like a complete fangirl, that we are getting a work by Christina in New York is mind-blowing. I would just encourage the committee members to Google Christina's name and the word lighthouse after it to have your mind completely blown. So fangirl over now.
Natalie, you'll have to come to some of the public programs with Christina. Well, everyone will, because she'll be participating in a number of things. So yeah, she's quite something and a visionary in the field. So thank you.
What is the window of the installation? When's the out date?
We open on June 1st, and it will close on December 4th.
Oh, great.
And we'll be installing in the second week of May.
Nice. So we get to see it through all seasons.
You got it. Exactly.
Mike, your hand is up.
Yes. Hi. Thanks. I love the park. I was there yesterday, actually, with the tour. Terrific. I wanted to ask about the installation of these pumps to make the water going. Is this something like what we're going to see in the dog run when that gets off the ground? It was packed yesterday.
Oh gosh, that's really not my expertise. I'm not, but I think we can get that information to you, Stephanie, unless you have the answer.
I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I will find out from Tom Reedy, and we'll get back to you about that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Brooke.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brooke.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. So I'm just going to continue on for the sustainability department. So as some of you know, in 2021, we officially kind of kickstarted our sustainability programs here in the park, focusing on ecological awareness. This year, we will continue that particular mission but we're actually also extending it to our waste reduction services in the park. So we're very happy to have partnered with Grow NYC to host composting in the park each Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Western Gravel. So we hope everyone continues to drop off your food scraps. You don't have to walk all the way to Union Square if you live in Chelsea and Nomad. So please come by on Wednesdays. We'll also do our Ecology Walks every third Thursday of the month, and that will be starting on March 17th. We'll be hosting those pretty frequently through the rest of the year. And then with the City Nature Challenge, this is a program that most New York City parks also participate in. And we are working with them on the weekend of April 29th to May 2nd to do one of the largest citizen science projects in New York City. So we invite members of the public to pull up the iNaturalist app, go outside, explore your environment, take photos of the plants, the animals, the insects, and all of that gets added to a catalog online, and it's actually cross-checked by different scientists. And that helps us kind of establish ecological baselines within New York City, and also just kind of discovering to see if there's any different species that are not usually normally here that are, or if we've lost any species or things like that. So please, I recommend everyone to go outside that weekend and take some photos. One event that is very dear to my heart that we're going to be debuting this year is Pollinator Picnic. So this will be Saturday, May 21st. And what we're going to do is hold a celebration in Madison Square Park about all the different native pollinators that we have here. So a lot of people think of pollinators as just honeybees, but we have a lot of native bees that, you know, I think are very similar to New Yorkers, that they live in single apartments and try to keep to themselves. We have masonry bees that we'll be celebrating. We'll be celebrating birds that are also pollinators, so hummingbirds, bats are one of them, and a lot of people don't realize New York City is home to quite a few bats. So we'll be celebrating those different species and insects on that particular day through music, arts and crafts, and tours of the park. And then we are partnering with local restaurants in the area to create a list of places you can go and grab some picnic items to bring to Pollinator Picnic. So that will be really fun. And then we're also encouraging people to volunteer in the park as a waste warrior. So Madison Square Park is committed to reducing our waste by 40% by 2025. And so I think the biggest thing that, one of the biggest obstacles that we deal with recycling programs is that there's a lot of confusion and some messaging about whether or not things are recyclable. Coffee cups, for one, do not go in paper recycling. And I don't think quite a few people know that. So we are calling on volunteers to help us with that situation here in the park, and to just provide some educational services around recycling. In terms of our horticultural and our park activities that will be going on in 2022, I'm excited to announce that based on the popularity of our native plant garden for the Pine Barrens exhibition, we will be continuing that in our container garden. And we encourage everyone to check it out. It will be replaced seasonally. And we'll also have an online guide of native plants available on our website for downloading. We'll do 2 exhibitions as usual through our spring and summer garden beds that are seasonally changed out. And this year's theme is cut flowers. So we'll be focusing on kind of how the production of cut flowers allows indoor access to the beauty and joy of nature. So I think a lot of people during the, you know, when we're all kind of still locked at home or just still kind of separating, I think a lot of us became plant people. I think flowers bring a lot of joy to our lives. And so we're kind of exploring the fleeting beauty of flowers and how there are moments of celebration around flowers and special moments that are commemorated through loss through the use of flowers. So that exhibition will be running from April to October. And we'll be hosting some Zoom presentations about the flower industry. So flower farming, floriculture, floristry, anything with flora in it. We've got those in our Zoom presentations. We're very excited that we were able to upgrade to a level 2 arboretum. There are only 151 arboreta in the world with this particular status. So we're very excited and pleased to be at that level. I know that some people who have written to us have expressed concerns about some of the trees that we lost in 2021. We lost about 11 trees And most of that was due to the age of the trees, strength loss. We did have 2 ash trees we had to remove due to emerald ash borer damage, which is a particular insect not native to North America. And we also had some storm damage. That being said, we were able to plant 18 new trees in 2021. So part of our horticultural programs are around cut flowers, and our trees will include garden walks, letters to the trees, which is our program where we encourage members of the public to write love letters to their trees that they find very special here in the park, and we'll share those through Instagram. We'll also be doing garden pride. So if you've ever walked through the park and you've seen these giant, beautiful alliums, we actually spray paint them once they finish their bloom in pride colors for the month of June, which is really fun. And then lastly, we'll have our Horticultural Symposium. A lot of people feel like when you hear the word symposium, it's only for professionals, but it is open to members of the public who want to express more in-depth knowledge and interest in floriculture and horticultural in general. And one thing I'm very excited, we are going to continue having our lawns open throughout 2022 until October, when we'll have to do some reseeding. But until then, all of our lawns will have some kind of access to them through now till October. So at least every day, assuming that there are no wet conditions or weather conditions that may cause damage to the lawns, we will try to have at least 2 lawns open at all times. So this is an extended lawn season that we will be continuing during this particular time frame. And then lastly, not lastly, but I am very excited. This has been years in the making. We now have Wi-Fi in the park. So I remember when I first started 7 years ago, that was one of our top goals. Thank you for the snaps. And then with our dog run reopening, we are still on track for a late spring reopening. We will do a celebration in June, commemorating fun canine activities in the park and commemorating the opening of the dog run. So enjoy the temporary one while we've got it. We're getting a brand new one coming this spring. And then we'll also have our Leaf Festival, which is our leaf raking, returning in November, and we'll also be bringing back our tree lighting in December. And that's it in terms, oops, I apologize, I'm skipping ahead. That's everything for our programming. If anyone has any questions, I'll take that before I go into Party in the Park.
Yes, let's pause for a moment about programming. That would be great. I have one question for you about the master plan you guys so brilliantly conceived a couple of years ago with the trees and everything in the park. When it comes to something like this unexpected loss of 11 trees, I am assuming that, attrition seems a very odd word to use for trees, but I'm assuming that this is part of the plan, that when you lose trees, there already was a strategy for replacing them. Is that correct?
Yes. So a couple of years ago, we created our tree canopy succession plan. So a lot of these trees we knew at some point were in a aged or weakening condition. If some of you know your park history, you know that Robert Moses, under his administration, they planted a ton of London planes throughout New York City, and also other types of trees. And now they're all reaching kind of their final stages of life. So trees have an infinite lifespan depending on the different species. And so we're starting to see that canopy slowly age and progress. And we've been planning for several years in advance for when these trees and their conditions finally are getting to the point where we need to address them. And they're no longer their cause for concern. We'll remove them if necessary beforehand, assuming that a hurricane doesn't do so for us. But whenever we have that, we do have a succession plan for all the different trees. We have focused on ornamentals, and we also do our best to plant native trees when possible to encourage native plantings in New York City.
Great, thank you. And Mike, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I do. 2 questions. First, I wanted to ask about the Madison Avenue 100-year memorial tree. And every time I pass by that tree, it seems to be getting bigger and more robust. I think it's absolutely magnificent. And I make sure that my tourists are aware of how healthy that tree is. Can you bring me up to date? Does that tree have an expiration date on it?
I will find out for you, Mike, but I'm not 100% sure, but I can say anecdotally, it produces probably the most acorns. And when I used to work in operations, it used to drive me crazy. So I think it's going quite well and quite strong. So I wouldn't worry too soon about it, but I'll find out exactly where it is in its life stage.
Well, all right. I want to see that another 25 years.
I hope so too.
At least. And then I wanted to ask, there was a slide just before that had Keats's name on it, and I didn't get to read that.
I will be talking about that. That's our Party in the Park fundraiser that we do every year. We'll be honoring Keats. And I'll hold off on that for 1 second, Mike, if anyone else has any other questions about our programming.
Yes, are there any, Miriam, I think you have your hand up.
Not quite about programming, but giving tours through the park, and which I love, of course. I've noticed when we enter the park at the northwest corner, there's been a little taco truck parked on the, very close, on the path that you sort of have to go around it as you come in. And I'm just wondering, is that right or is that wrong? It's just a question. I don't, I thought that, the Shake Shack was it.
Yeah, it's an excellent observation. So that is actually a park concession through the New York City Parks Department. You might have been familiar with their smaller stand, which was King David Tacos. This is a collaboration between King David Tacos and Blank Street Coffee. I'm very happy to report, despite the size of the cart, it runs on electric. It's electric powered. It's run by batteries. It's as sustainable as possible. But yeah, it is a little big, but they're supposed to be there.
And legitimate. That was
and legitimate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the committee? And just so you're all aware, procedurally, there will be public chance for comment and question, but I'm going to hold all of that until the complete presentation. And seeing none, Stephanie, please continue.
Okay. So as some of you know, we do our annual fundraiser Party in the Park every year except for the past 2 years. So it will be finally returning this year. This is our biggest fundraiser. It brings in about 25% of our operating budget. And it basically is a seated dinner for donors. So this year we'll be honoring Keats Meyer. Some of you may know that Keats is leaving the Conservancy after almost a decade of leadership here. She moved out to New Hampshire and has been commuting back and forth to kind of lead us through this time. We'll also be celebrating our Madison Square Park Conservancy staff during this 10-year period. And we'll also have celebration status for Hugh, Hayden, and Christina Iglesias during our fundraiser. And just to speak to the load in and load out of this event, I do want to just put a caveat here that the buffer time has been extended because as you probably all know, there is some staffing shortages that we're dealing with and some sourcing shortages. So just to provide us with as much of a buffer, I think it will actually be a much shorter time frame than what's currently posted here. But based on the current information that I have as of last Friday, it will be April 4th to 11th for load in. And as we load in tents and things like that, for example, once the tent over here by the fountain is installed, we'll actually open up all of the sides so people will have through access until it is closed off like 1 or 2 days before the actual event. So anywhere you kind of see kind of tents or things like that, those will remain open for as long as possible, except when we're actually bringing in trucks or crews or any type of steel beams or anything like that into the park. The event date will be Monday, April 11th. So that will be the dinner in the evening. And then they'll be loading out on the 12th. And historically, they've loaded out in like 2 days, but we built in a buffer until the 15th, which is that Friday. There'll be overnight security present from Sunday and Monday, and we will generally have PEP or event staff kind of in these zones building or loading in materials during the daytime. And like I mentioned, we'll do our best to keep pathways open as much as possible until probably that Saturday or Sunday before, and then I'm hoping the park will return to normal by Wednesday or Friday, the latest. And that's it. I can answer any questions about Party in the Park.
Well, actually, are there any questions about Party in the Park? If there are, please raise your hand, committee members. And while we're waiting to see, Stephanie, are we also going to see about the roster of your regular programming? Are there any changes this year from prior years? And is there any re-addition of things that weren't happening over COVID?
Oh, so yeah, I apologize. I completely skipped that over on my presentation. So the things that will be returning, for example, are Leaf Fest, our tree lighting ceremony. I think the new things will be a lot of our sustainability programs, such as that Pollinator Picnic, which is a community event that we are debuting this year, and then the dog run reopening. But for the most part, we've done ecological walks in the past. We've done tours, Zoom presentations. So all of that is new, but different themed.
And how about the other classics like the kids concerts and stuff?
Oh, so kids concerts will not be coming back for this year.
Okay. And the other things that you haven't mentioned, are they not coming back this year?
Yeah, if they are not listed in this presentation, to my knowledge, they are not coming back.
Okay,
Yeah.
and just so that we understand, is this because things have been so uncertain that you're just planning to not plan them? Or is this the kind of thing where ultimately you want to have the prior roster programming back, you just don't know when?
Sure, and I know you're referencing our kids programs. Our kids programs are currently, we have them in limbo right now. We don't know the current state of the affairs. I feel like every time we plan something, something changes, especially in the times we're currently living in. So for this year, we have elected not to do any large scale kids programming where kids under 5 can congregate, we want to keep everyone as safe as possible.
Understood. Thanks for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I think, so everybody, just so everyone understands what we're doing here, we are going to take a vote on this roster of programming, which includes the Party in the Park fundraiser. Historically, what we have done is approve every roster that is the same as prior year's approvals, which is why, Stephanie is right to point out the things that are new and different. So questions and comments from committee members to anything that she's presented. And if not, I will also ask members of the public if you have any questions. Oops, I just raised my hand. I didn't mean to do that. Members of the public have any questions or comments on any of this roster, please raise your hand as well, and we will allow you to speak. It doesn't look like there are any raised hands. I also want to just take a moment to acknowledge that we didn't have a meeting last month, so we didn't have the opportunity to acknowledge Keith Smeyer's departure. And we have, wow, 10 years. It's been quite a journey, and she's done such an incredible job. And we are interested about what the process is for a new executive director. Do you have any information to share with us about that process?
So we're going through the process right now, and I apologize, I think my internet's unstable, but we are going through the process right now, and we're hoping to share some news by May or June.
Okay, great. We look forward to it. All right, seeing no hands, I am going to assume that this room is in approval of this roster, but I do need to hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Craig, we take it to a vote.
Hayden,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Miriam,
Yes,
Natalie,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Mir,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Daniel.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you so much. Stephanie, it's lovely to see you. Thank you for your time. And if you could please get back to me or the office with the questions that we had outstanding, we'll forward those along to the committee.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, moving right along, we have an application from Vector Media for a promotional event in the 40th Street Plaza at Bryant Park. And our illustrious partners at Bryant Park Corporation did us the service of, Matt is in the room, hello Matt, did us the service of letting us know about this as soon as they had the information, which was a little bit later than our normal agenda process, so there was a little bit of a tight window. So I thank the applicant and our committee members, Kathy and Will, who worked on this, for kind of hustling some information in. We have, where are you? I know you're a window in my screen somewhere. Dali Nunez, am I saying your name right? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're saying it correct. Hello.
Hello, it is lovely to have you here. You're very welcome to be here. And Kathy and Will, I'm going to begin by asking you to just kick us off with your familiarity so far with the information that you have about this event, and then we can hand it over to the applicant.
Okay, Craig, Clayton, I can't take any credit for this. I think Kathy, has been doing all of the communicating, so I'm gonna defer to her on this.
Great, let's defer to Kathy.
It's pretty straightforward. It's a one-day event. I, of course, don't remember the date of the event. It's Sunday at Bryant Park. It's a food truck tying in with the Seinfeld show, giving out some free food. It's a fairly small footprint, fairly small signage. We got the renderings and map of where the things are going to go, and I don't know. That's basically it. I'll let Dolly give more detail.
Yeah, certainly. And I think I can, let me see if I can share my screen here. One sec. Okay. That's not working for me, but I can totally just walk you guys through what we're looking to do. So my name is Dali Nunez, and I'm one of the senior project managers on the experiential team at Vector Media. We're an out-of-home and experiential agency, and we're working with Sony Television Pictures on a 5-market food truck tour to promote Seinfeld viewership and syndication. Seinfeld has done this campaign most recently in 2019 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of their show. And they're interested in hosting this year at Bryant Park on Sunday, April 22nd. Sunday, April 24th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. They're looking to park the food truck on the curb lane on 40th Street between 5th and 6th, right in front of the 40th Street Plaza. On the plaza, we'll have 2 small sandwich boards and 2 staff kind of guiding park users to the truck. From the truck, it'll be like a surprise and delight moment where park users or Seinfeld fans can come up to the truck and grab iconic foods from the show, like coffee cakes, chocolate babka, Snickers, black and white cookies. And then as far as the artwork for the truck, they're running a digital art contest right now where they're giving the opportunity to fans to create the artwork for the sandwich board and the truck. I feel like it's going to look very similar to the images that I sent to Kathy and team earlier, but just a smidge different. I wish I could share my screen to show you, but I'm not sure what's going on. And then as far as garbage, we're going to provide our own garbage can. We'll put it right by the truck, and our team will dispose of any garbage at our facility, our commissary in Brooklyn. The truck, since we're not cooking anything on the truck, these are going to just be pre-packaged food items. We're not going to be cooking on the truck, so the truck will not be on while it's parked there. So there will be no emissions throughout the activation. Load in and load out are fairly simple. We just pull up, set up the sandwich boards, and then we just open the serving window. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Very simple, very straightforward. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
So Kathy, are you able to share your screen with the renderings that you got?
Let me see. Give it a try. Share screen. Let's see.
Actually,
let's see. That's not right.
I think
you able to see that?
Yes.
Is that it? Oh, that's the end. Let me just go back to the first page. Hold on a second. Here we go. That's what the truck looks like. I guess that's the fellow that works for you.
We just lost your screen, actually, Kathy.
Oh. What happened? your screen again. Hold on a second. What happened? Doesn't want to share. I'm having some technical difficulties. Hold on a second.
I think I can try and pull it up. One sec.
Oh, okay, you got it.
Golly, I think you're on mute.
We can't hear you.
We are not hearing you. You are not on mute, but we are not hearing you. You are not muted, actually, I can tell. There's just, we can't hear you for some reason. It does not show muted on our end.
Interesting. It mutes me
Oh, there
when
you
I'm
go.
screen.
Oh,
So I'm
boy.
not sure. Yeah.
Oh my
That
God.
was, I was saying, those are some images from the 2019 food truck. They partnered with Pix 11, which is their station, their local station here in New York, and they parked the truck outside of Pix 11, and that's where they held the activation in 2019.
So I did not get the renderings, otherwise I would just share my screen. Is anyone able to both share their screen and speak? We need to see what this is going to look like.
Let me, I'll send you the email. Okay, I just sent it to you, Clayton.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Is this better?
Yes, and we can hear you. So the artwork for the truck is going to be very similar to this. We gave the fans like kind of guidelines to stick to something similar to this, so it's not going to veer off too much from this. As you can see here, they're giving out the ring dings, the coffee cakes, the black and white cookies, chocolate babkas.
So the kind of call for submissions for art is not just, you said something about digital art. I'm a little confused.
Oh yeah, so it's all of the artwork needs to be digitally designed. They can't like take photos from like a third-party vendor or anything like that.
Oh,
So,
I see what you mean. I thought you were talking about like a digital screen or something.
oh no, it's gonna be a vinyl wrapped food truck. No digital
Got it.
screen. Yes.
All right, and we're talking about the art on the truck as well as the sandwich boards. Is that right?
Yeah, and the sandwich boards are minimal. I think the client is still, Sony is still trying to decide whether they want the sandwich boards to act as directionals or whether they'll list what they'll be serving out of the food truck. But they're very small, 22 by 34.
That's really minor.
Yeah.
Got it. Great.
Yep.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. Can we just talk about brand ambassadors for a second, which is the world's most ubiquitous euphemism? Brand ambassadors. Okay, so these two humans are going to be what?
So we have 2 staff members on board of the truck serving the food, and then we'll also have 2 brand ambassadors in the park or by the truck, kind of guiding people to the truck and telling them what exactly is going on here. We're here promoting Seinfeld. Here are some complimentary treats for you. Feel free to go up to the truck and grab what you'd like. That's kind of like their role here. Nothing more than that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just,
so I think we have
some.
Oh, Matt.
Can I pop in? I think that our perspective, and I will say that Dolly has been really great about hearing our feedback on all of this and incorporating it, is that this is the ambassadors will not be approaching people who are sitting enjoying their time in the park. If they're in transit and walking in that direction, hey, if you'd like to grab, you're welcome to. It's not a situation where they're going to be going up to people who are kind of sitting minding their own business. I know that's when I'm in a park, I would like to kind of just do my own thing and not be bothered. So I think we're really coaching them hard on that. So I just want to let you guys know that.
Thank you, Matt. You read all of our minds, I'm sure.
We've been here before.
You've been here before. I think there's also probably some questions about sanitation just with the packaging. Is there any particular attention that's going to be paid to what happens to all the plastic? That's a question for you, Dolly.
No, totally. That's a great question. I will have to circle back on that. I'll ask our food truck team. I'm sure they recycle to some degree. So I would definitely get back to you on that.
Because I feel that people are going to be grabbing that from the truck and going into the park. And so we don't want, there will be plastic wrappers flying around the park. So we just want to consider the impact of that and what your remediation measures are for that.
Totally.
And the answer could be that a fifth human who works for you would be responsible for managing sanitation.
Oh, okay. That's totally doable. Listening to your feedback and
Thank you. Craig, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Clayton. Two quick questions. Number one, are you having any music? In other words, for example, are you going to have the Seinfeld theme blasted on a continuous loop for 6 hours that people are going to have to listen to? And then the second question I have, which I know I'm preempting my colleague Todd Shapiro, who's going to ask, are you going to be filming anything? Will it be social media or anything to that effect while you're doing this?
Sure. So for the first question, we will not be playing any music. There will not be any noise coming from the truck. For the second question, we weren't planning on taking any photos or videos, but I'm sure the client would probably ask closer to the date. So if there's any restrictions on that, look to you guys to fill me in on what those restrictions are. And then as far as social media, I will also check in with the client. I feel as if they're already running this digital art contest. So there may be some social involved, but I'll have to double check with them. And if there's any restrictions on your end, I'd love to hear them too, so that I can go back to them and say, no, we cannot post to social media. And then they'll just have to kind of like go along with what your recommendations or restrictions are there.
Yeah, well, the concern that we have is that people are going to be in the park and they're going to be passing by, and all of a sudden they're going to find out they were videotaped and they're on Instagram in a video that they didn't know about. And what some of the other applicants have done is they put posters up of saying, if you pass this area, you're going to get videotaped, you're going to get recorded, and you have no choice in the world. You're giving up your rights for eternity and whatever else. And that's something that we have a lot of concerns over. We want to make sure that park goers can go use the park and not feel that they're going to be taped.
Totally. And I can let the client know that that's a concern. And
yeah,
if this is the one location we don't film or take photos at, I'm sure they'll be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, or if there is, there should be a way of doing it in a fair way to those who are using the park that don't want to be filmed. You might want to do it and get it. But what I think if you do decide to do that, I think it would be appreciated if you came back to the community board to let us know so we can work with you on that.
Sure, will do.
Thank you, Craig. And yeah, to put a fine point on that, if there's a happy customer eating a chocolate babka in front of the truck and they sign a waiver because they really want to be featured on your story about your Seinfeld thing, then great. But the waiver is the part that we would want to make sure is there for those people who elect to be a part of it.
Okay.
Mike, you had your hand raised first, but I'm going to skip you and go to Todd because I'm pretty confident it's on the same topic.
Yes, well, thank you, Clayton and Craig. So I just the major point, which I think they covered, is that when you post a sign, indicating that you're doing the video filming for social media, just make sure the sign says, makes people aware that they're being filmed and that the imaging will not be used without their express permission, right? Usually it's the other way around. The posted notice says that if you're here, right, you give your permission, right? So that's the key thing. So we want our park goers not to read the sign and feel like they're being booted out of their own park. And just to be clear, the law is in New York State that you cannot use somebody's digital image without their express written permission, except for de minimis use, which means like they're walking by and you get the back of their head, you know, in the background of the videotape, right? So I just add my voice to Clayton and Craig, and just see what you can to make sure that that gets done properly.
Noted, totally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mike, you're up.
Yeah. So is there a link where we can find out more comprehensive information about what this is celebrating, who's benefiting, just more details? Will there be a link up at, is it Bryant Park link or?
Wait. Sorry, Mike, I'm a little unclear on the question.
How would one find out more information about this event?
Oh, Dolly, is there going to be advance notice of this event to the public? Is another question, as might be a part of that.
Yeah, certainly. So there, as of now, there is going to be no promotion of this event. It's just going to be like a pop-up surprise and delight. If there is going to be promotion of this truck, it'll probably be via Pix 11, which is like the local station that Seinfeld is partnering with and Sony is partnering with, because the goal is to increase viewership in syndication. So Pix 11 might do a story in front of Pix 11 because we are permitting that Friday on the 22nd to be in front of the Pix 11 news station. They're going to do a piece on the food truck, and then they might say, if you want to check the truck out, it'll be in Union Square Park on Saturday and Bryant Park on Sunday. So I can get more information on that from the client, who is in charge of all of the promotional part of it, and get back to you guys with what their plan is there.
Oh, that's the first we've heard that there were plans for Union Square. We knew nothing about that.
Yeah, well, I've been working with SAPO, with Kathy from SAPO.
Got it. That is why we don't know about it.
For Union Square Plaza, not the park.
That is why we do not know about it. Lesson to members of the public or new community board members who aren't as familiar with the Sturm und Drang of the years of frustration with the non-city agency known as SAPO. There is no public transparency around what comes to SAPO and therefore what comes on this agenda. So we did not know about this application in Union Square Plaza. To be fair to the applicant, that may or may not affect people's opinions about this event in Bryant Park, but it is part of a bigger picture that that is not a fault of the applicant, that we did not have any information about the event that's happening on Saturday. So you can be sure that I'll make some phone calls tomorrow, but as of now, we don't formally know anything about that application.
Good to know. On my end as well. I don't know if that was another like community board situation or not, but I did reach out to somebody at Union Square Bid. So it's a different story, I guess.
We will also be looking into it. Thank you. Okay, gang. So before we go into business session, I want to see if there's any more questions or comments from members of the committee. And also I will open the floor now to members of the public for any questions or comments. If you have any, please use the raise hand feature. And we will hear from you. And yes, we have a raised hand from Charles. I am a co-host, so I'm going to allow you to speak. And now you can unmute yourself and you can make your statement.
Hello, hi. I was wondering, with the the snacks that will be on offer at the food truck, will there be any that will be vegan friendly, or will there be any warning to the public if any of the snacks contain nuts for anyone who has any nut allergy? Also wondering, when it comes to the containers, you mentioned about plastic. Is there maybe an alternative that could be used, such as paper, especially since, or cards, especially since the city is making an effort to try to, minimize the use of plastic?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
for that,
Yeah, you can respond briefly.
okay, sure. For the last, I'll start backwards. For the last question, we were looking into branded paper sleeves for all of the snacks. And our team would just have to take them out of the plastics that they would come in and then put them in the paper sleeves. So if that's helpful for the park, we'll be happy to do that. And then as far as the vegan and nut allergies, we can serve the vegan, I'd have to look into that. And then the nut allergies, I can also let my team know to either create signage around any nut allergies or any nuts that might be, or allergens that might be in any of the things we're serving from the snacks.
Great, thank you, Charles, so much for your input. All right, I see no other hands. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? While I wait for last call on this, I'll just add my point of view on that, is that the language around allergies obviously will be helpful when it comes to removing one type of garbage in order to replace it in another type of garbage, which is also branded. I think that would definitely not be an asset to your application. That's my personal opinion. If anyone disagrees with me, please fight me. And while I wait, there's no more hands. So as we evaluate this application, you guys all know we use the matrix. I'm not going to ask Kathy and Will to walk us through the matrix because this event is way on the other side of the spectrum because of its minimal impact as far as size. There's no amplified sound, yada, yada. It is totally branded. It's totally commercial. It's probably all kinds of unhealthy food people aren't happy about. But basically, I think that we can all agree that we are happy that this is going to bring some interest to the park and some traffic to the park, perhaps, and some money to the park. So, and also, Seinfeld. So, and does anyone have any further comments or questions regarding this application? No one's going to fight me? Okay. All right, then I think we need to hear a motion, please.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, let's take it to a vote.
Clayton,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Miriam,
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Daniel.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Dolly, for being here and for your attention and time and for taking all of our input and questions into consideration as you plan your event.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Last item on our agenda is, this is actually a non-voting item, I think. This is a discussion of the mayor's, the mayor's proposed budget, and I have asked him to take stock of this and frame this conversation for us. I don't think there's tons to talk about, but I do think it's important for us to weigh in as we see fit on what he has proposed.
Sure. Thanks for making this conversation a priority, Clayton, and for giving us space and time to chat about it. So a little bit of context. As you all may recall, during the last election, New Yorkers for Parks, as well as a variety of other agencies, issued a challenge to all candidates to dedicate at least 1% of the city's overall budget to the Department of Parks and Rec. The idea was to match funding levels found, in other municipalities elsewhere in the country, which typically allot up to 2% of their budgets to parks, and put even more money toward upkeep and services. And so, as we all may recall fondly, of course, Mayor Adams accepted that challenge. However, in his recently released preliminary budget of $98.5 billion, the Parks Department was allocated around $500 million, or about 0.5% of total expenditures. That's actually a decrease from what they received last year even. The agency was also subject to, if you've been hearing about the citywide savings plan, which essentially tasks departments to cut spending by 3%, specifically by focusing on nixing vacant positions. However, the spending plan for parks showed a headcount reduction of about 250 people as well. So none of this sounds great. What I can also speak to is what proper funding could potentially look like. Obviously the rationale for this is that we live in the densest city in the country. Few families have access to backyards or terraces, and we would have a much safer and healthier city if we had access to fantastic green spaces across all 5 boroughs. And with proper funding at the 1% mentioned or promised, that would mean more public safety officers in parks. It would mean more playground staff, more gardeners, more trees, and the opportunity for replanting. I think it's just so important to recognize we have 30,000 acres of park within the entirety of New York City. Obviously, we can talk about what that looks like in CB5. But there's a lot to take care of, and that includes 1,700 individual parks and playgrounds. And so we've just seen, I think, through the pandemic, and you've all heard me on my soapbox talking about how worried I am for neighbors and kids in the way that parks and green spaces have been so important to us during this time. And how open space is really an issue of public health and racial justice. And so I think, it's just so important for us to consider the ramifications of this budget move and to think about potential response or a letter or whatever that might look like. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Kim, for a very robust framing of this topic, which is totally important. And one other element of this that I want to insert into this discussion that didn't make as much news is his proposed budget did not include the creation of the position of a director of public realm, which is a whole other topic. And yet it's relevant because we're talking about the same governance of space and the same failure to live up to a campaign promise because he committed to the creation of this position. So that is another part of the same failed campaign promise. And it is something we have been on public record more than once, maybe more than twice, perhaps thrice. I can't actually be sure, but we have spoken a lot over the last couple of years about this director of public realm, and we are committed to this vision. There are so many entities and people and leaders who are also now committed to this vision. It's gained so much traction. It's gotten wildly more attention than I think anyone ever really thought. It's still a good idea. And I think that it is relevant as part of whatever we submit as our committee in response to the preliminary budget as it relates to parks and public spaces. So I'm going to throw that in there too. And Craig, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, it's a question for Kim, and I don't know if you know this, and I don't know if anybody knows this, I don't know if it's done that way, but of the $500 or so million that's in the budget for parks, is any of it from the pandemic money? And the reason why I'm asking is because eventually that money will run out, right? Like in a year or 2 years, whenever the federal funding goes away. So that would mean that in a couple of years from now, that 500 will be potentially much lower because it's only some of that money is just temporary money. So do we know if any of that money is from pandemic relief money?
I'm actually uncertain of that. I, for some reason, feel that it does not include those funds, but I can't remember what I must have read that gave me that impression.
And also,
There's
Well,
probably,
and I think that I think that the conversation that we have here tonight is going to be very useful for the full board with our response to the mayor's preliminary budget. Our response as a board has to be received by March 21st or something. So I've been conferring with the board office and Vicky and Renee Kinsella about best methods here. And I think that what is most helpful is for this recording and our minutes to be given to Renee Kinsella, who can incorporate it into the discussion that will be happening at Beck's and their next meeting cycle for our formal response to the mayor's preliminary budget. So that is why I believe the most correct course of action is not really to vote on anything tonight, but for all of these ideas and concerns and questions to be given to Beck's that they can fold into their more comprehensive response to the mayor's preliminary budget. And I bring that up now because this question about, to Craig's question around the federal funding, I think that's obviously an important piece that we might not have full information about. So that would be relevant for them to look into. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Todd.
Kimberly, I'm sorry, I have a terrible connection. Did you say anything about what the trend of the budget allocation was for parks and recreation going back several years? Did I hear anything about that? In other words,
I did say it's gone down since last year, from last year. And I know that last year was a significant cut from the year before that. So I would say it's going to
so the trend is down, even though the need for public spaces during a period of pandemic was way up because people were desperate to get outside. So, and that's even with all the money flowing in from the city. And if I can understand this, we don't even really know what a percentage out of the allocation that federal money is, right? So I think so. I mean, what would be great to see would be the budget allocation in absolute dollars and as a percentage of the city budget going back, 2 years during a pandemic period, and then over the last 5 or 10 years, so we could comment on the trends and make a statement about how outrageous it is that it seems to be out of proportion to the need. Now, I mean, I'm interested to hear if anybody else has any comments on that.
Let's see.
We agree. Barbara, your hand is raised.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, as somebody who worked for the city of New York, I mean, I guess I was surprised that, honestly, I understand the needs for cuts because during the de Blasio administration, the number of hirees just ballooned. But the idea of just sort of telling agencies, blankly that you all have to cut like, X amount of percent. I don't, it has to be weighed in terms of need. I mean, I can say that the agency that I worked for could pare down because they were a lot leaner under the Bloomberg administration. But to Kim's point about not necessarily people, working in the parks office, but actually on the grounds, and people in terms of security and maintenance and all those other things. I mean, especially in places in the city where you don't have, the Central Park Conservancies or the other kind of park conservancies, where parks are desperately needed and really need that extra help of dollars. So it seems really short-sighted to do it in such a blanket way.
Thank you, Barbara. I just want to kind of piggyback on that I think it's really essential that we're having this conversation at Community Board 5 because our district is, well, maybe unique. I don't know, perhaps unique when it comes to the ratio of public versus private money managing our park spaces. And it's a big, huge topic that we deal with all the time, but we have gotten institutionally, we have gotten used to working with are private partners. And it's like we have the privilege of having funding in our public spaces that other districts do not have. We have made deals. We have made transactional and moral negotiations about this topic. We have learned to live with Seinfeld branded chocolate babka because we like Seinfeld. No, because our parks are distinctive. And this is what was at some point considered necessary to bring funding into these spaces. No other district has that privilege. Some other districts have a little bit of that privilege. So I just think, piggybacking on what you just said, Barbara, that it's critical for us to have a much bigger picture about New York City, period. And that's what we're here for. We are concerned about the welfare of the people who live in the city, as well as in our district. And I do think it's an issue of equity, and it is an issue of racial justice, and it is an issue of public health. And all of that has come to a head in the last 2 years. And who are we if we're not going to raise this issue now on this committee and on this board? So soapbox over. Todd, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so that was the other thing I was just going to say, is that, as Clayton said, we're all spoiled rotten in Community Board 5. The funding and the excellent condition of so many of our public places is a result of the public-private partnerships and the generous donations of very well-to-do people. So that may in fact be short-circuiting the democratic process, because if it wasn't there, the most motivated and knowledgeable people would be holding our city's feet to the fire to make sure that our parks were funded adequately. And you know, if we're the people that know how to do the fighting and the lobbying better than anybody. And if we don't see the need, right, then we see what happens. It just gets cut. And the places, it is an issue of equity, because the places that have the deep pockets and the public-private partnerships, the people are just not going to, they're just not going to get involved and lobby the way they might if it wasn't there. And much of the rest of the city doesn't have it. So yes, Clayton, it's so much an issue of equity. And we have to do what we can to call attention to this. And all we have to do is just think about, as you say, we're so acclimated to having, you know, private uses of public spaces way more than we'd like for this very reason. Anyway, enough said about that.
Thank you, Todd. I'd like to give some credit also to this group of people for how we have held these private entities' feet to the fire with, our process has improved the applications that we get. Over the years, it has changed enormously from the days when we would have, I remember the TV show Sleepy Hollow built a dilapidated, terrifying shack, like a terrifying, spooky, haunted house in the middle of the oval lawn at Madison Square Park, a big, huge ad for Madison Square Park for Sleepy Hollow that we didn't know anything about. And things have changed a lot. And so I do believe that despite the fact that we hold our nose through this and all the stuff that I just said, you know, our process is important and does help for our situation and in our district. But it's really important for us to be sober about this and to be clear that just because we have learned to have a matrix doesn't mean that it's okay to sell public space to the highest bidder for an ad. So we got to be really careful about it. And I think that this is a great opportunity for us to be mindful about how we contribute to the public conversation. So any other thoughts, questions, comments? I think that I really am just going to ask Renee to watch the recording. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to type up my thoughts to Renee and put it into a letter and see if what's the most constructive way that these comments can formally be put into a response. That is something that that is a Bex issue. That is something I'm not super skilled at. Who do we have on Bex here? Barbara? No, Barbara, you're on Landmarks. Kim. Oh, well, Kim is on Bex. We are in good hands. Okay, Barbara, your hand is raised.
I was just going to add that I would say that parks are really not, they're an essential service really in the city of New York. And I think that's really what has to be emphasized. It's not, it shouldn't be so discretionary. And the fact that, and I was unaware that they had really been so cut over so many years. I mean, I think it is essential to the health and well-being of all New Yorkers. It's just, I mean, can you imagine if we didn't have them? So that's it.
Thank you, Barbara. Even though this is not a voting issue, I'd want to give the members of the public an opportunity to ask questions or comments. If you have any, please feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand feature. Yes, and Charles, you are allowed to speak. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I wanted to just agree with what Barbara said. Parks are essential. In fact, there is the group Achilles who run in Central Park around the reservoir, and they're a group where able-bodied sighted people run with people with disabilities. And I really hope that someday there could be greater access to restrooms in that area, because sadly that running group has to either use the church bathrooms, which sometimes the church kindly allows the group to use, or try to find a Dwayne Reed or something like that. And it'd be great if there was greater access to restrooms, especially in that running area. Also, the tandem group where able-bodied people take disabled people on bike rides to the park. So there's a lot of good things happening in the parks, and I'm very grateful to Bryant Park, who also allow me to have access to their park with volunteers who take me into the park for my transportation. So it's really important that there's more funding for parks. And also I would love, just one last comment, I would love to see some sort of special part of a park dedicated to the elderly or people with disabilities, where they could have a chance at growing some plants or some flowers, or have a chance like that to, I think that'd be really therapeutic and rehabilitative in a way, if there was somewhere they could have a special area to grow some vegetables or flowers or something, if that's a possibility way in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles, for your input. We appreciate it. And that just gave me an idea as we advocate for all the changes in the new public space that might ostensibly be coming to the Penn Station area. Let's get a community garden. Holla. Okay. So any more questions or comments? I think that I am so appreciative of you all and for this conversation. I think that it'll help Bex with their larger conversation with a response to this preliminary budget, which has a whole lot of other issues that need to be addressed. Any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for your time, and we will see you at full board next week.